Welcome to the podcast Life After Addiction and Indictment. I'm your host, Steve Cloward, and I spent most of the last decade and well over $100,000 on coaches, consultants, masterminds, and events trying to figure out how to reclaim my life again. On this podcast, I'm going to share the tools, the tips, the tricks, and the hacks that allowed me to forgive myself so that I could reclaim my life again. I'll be interviewing experts in mindset, leadership, entrepreneurship, sales, marketing, branding, and so much more. I'm glad you're here. Sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
Let's go! This is Life After Addiction and Indictment.
Hey folks, welcome back to Life After Addiction and Indictment. Appreciate you taking the time here today. I've got a special guest who I've been looking forward to for a few months. He's a busy guy. He's got a background as a Navy SEAL. He's a veteran. He's an incredible businessman to levels, taking companies to the 50 plus million range. And we're going to talk about some of that stuff, things that he's done as a Navy SEAL, and just get his wisdom and insights on how he's been able to be such an effective leader. Because those of you out there that are struggling or maybe stuck that really want to chase that dream of yours, that for whatever reason you've been held back, today, we have a gentleman that really can probably provide some insights to show you truly what's possible if you just believe. And I'm sure we're going to get some insights because you cannot be a Navy SEAL unless you got one hell of a mindset. And that is something that we've got to have if we want to be successful as entrepreneurs. And so appreciate you taking the time to be here. Dan Cerrillo, how you doing today?
Thank you. I'm doing very good today. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time. And so, when you decided to go, become a SEAL and go through BUDS and all that, is that something that you had thought about for some time as a kid, or how did that all come about?
No, it was actually, it's pretty funny. I tell this story, people laugh. So, I grew up in, I wouldn't say military family. My mom married a few different military guys. Okay. And so I was always kind of in, within parts of the military, different people came through the house and whatnot. Some of them good guys, some of them not good guys, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to I saw the movie Top Gun.
Okay.
My uncle was an Army Ranger. My uncle's a highly decorated Army guy from Vietnam, did LRP and Ranger, was one of the only guys to do a combat jump in Vietnam, lost a lot of friends. And he wasn't a militaristic man. He was a very, very poignant man.
Okay.
Everything he did had a purpose, right? And so just watching him, I was like, man, the way he carried himself, et cetera, the kind of family man he was. He was a bishop in his church. He would talk about the military, but he wouldn't talk about it in this fantasy world. Just, like it gave him an opportunity to succeed and do other things. And so I was always good at math and I liked school. And, he just said, if you're going to join the military, try to be an officer, if you want to have an easy job, you're 14 years old. It's all about easy, right?
That's right.
And prior to living with my uncle, my life had been a little hard. So he was like, be a pilot. So I big hook, line, and sinker. I saw the movie Top Gun. I wanted to go to the Naval Academy, et cetera. And it's funny that I had another uncle who was a diehard Army guy, and he was like, you want to fly belly buttons? And I'm like, huh? He's like a naval aviator, right? So, so
I've never heard that.
Pretty good joke growing up, right?
That is good.
Anyway, I was pretty committed to the books. I did as good as I could, but I didn't have an understanding of the Naval Academy, the process. So I actually early applied as a junior, and I got accepted to prep school, which to me was a denial. That's the way I took it, right? Because I just didn't know. I was like, oh, they don't want me, and I didn't have any like I was the only guy in my family, nobody graduated college, much less go to the Naval Academy, Army Academy, whatever, right? So there was really nobody to talk to. And then the military guys who I knew who were officers were all enlisted to officers.
Okay.
I didn't have the understanding that the Naval Academy basically said, yes, but your grades aren't good enough to the level of the mathematics we need. So we need you to go to prep school. So to me, it was a denial, right?
Okay.
And that was, basically the first time I pretty much quit. I essentially just kind of said, screw it, man. They didn't want me, and what am I studying so hard for? I only had to take one class as a senior because I went to summer school every year to get my grades to a point, right? And I'm like, I just do all this fucking work. And they just said no. I became very anti-military,
A
right?
little better. Yeah.
I had received an offer to basically become a Citadel, a candidate for selection. Wofford, a couple other schools, and my coach Sam Clark was like, "You got to go to these things. You do great. You play football." And I'm like, "Screw that."
Uh-huh.
Military, everything, et cetera. I started thinking about how many times I'd moved growing up, my mom's different, relationships with military guys. I'm like, I hate the military. So I went to a little school to go basically try to become a football player, right? So I played ball and quickly found out I hated college. Nothing was going good. And my girlfriend on a Friday night took me to go see the movie Navy SEALs.
Okay.
Right? Saturday, we played a football game. We got destroyed by the University of Florida to 70-0 or something like that.
Oh, gosh.
Right? And Florida had been my dream school to go to, and they didn't even like look at me. And I'm 5 foot. Back then I was 5'6". I'm 5'8" now, right? Anyway, so got destroyed by Florida. I went to a party that night, massive fight, and big football player versus gangbanger fight. And after the fight was over, one of the gangbangers drove by my house and shot my house full of holes. I wasn't home. Nobody was home, so no drama.
Wow.
And Monday morning, I was the recruiter. And I showed up the recruiter. I had 15 stitches in my eye. Like, I want to be a SEAL.
Did you know what the requirements and what it takes physically and stuff?
No.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I figured.
remember back then, I used to shave my head. I got baggy jeans on, white t-shirt. I'm straight up SA, right?
Yeah.
And, I walked in. I'm like, I want to be a SEAL, and he literally laughed at me. He's like, dude, So he's like, well, take this little test. It was a pre-ASVAB. Well, he didn't know that I'm, basically when it comes to math, I like math. Like math, it just makes sense to me. Yeah. And so I take the test. I miss one question, and he's like, "You don't want to be a SEAL. You want to be a nuke." And so for a recruiter, you put one nuke in the Navy per month. That equals 8 recruits. So back then, I had to put 8 recruits in the Navy to make their quota.
Gotcha.
So if you want anything to do with SEALs, you go to the nuke program, et cetera. And I didn't know any better. So I went to the one Navy guy that I knew. I'm like, they say I can't be a SEAL. They say I have to be a nuke. He's like, no way. So he's actually a pretty famous Navy guy named Don Cope. He holds a record for the deepest dive in the Navy. He goes to recruiter with me, and he's like, you get him in the SEAL program right now.
Wow.
And, that set a ball in motion. I read every book. I worked out. The thought that I had of how SEALs worked out, I did it. So I went and bought these Wolverine steel toe boots, go run 10-mile runs. I would do everything in these still flutter kicks. I wake up at 4 in the morning. I'm like, I don't know why I'm waking up at 4, but it just seems like the thing to do. And I became I was always a big fitness guy. I wasn't attempted to be fitness. I play football. I wrestled.
Yes.
Wrestled year round.
Got to be in shape to wrestle for sure. Yeah.
Right. And I played a little water polo. I wasn't any good at water polo, but I attribute being a SEAL to wrestling and water polo. And so the fitness part was easy, right? And because we were really poor, I had 2 choices: either walk or ride a bike. And so my bike was
you're always
shit, so I'd walk.
Wow.
Basically run everywhere. So the fitness part was easy, and I went to boot camp, got selected, went to A school back then, passed all my testing, went to Bud's class 194, graduated as an original, started with 174 guys, and 14 of us graduated, and went to SEAL Team 1, did my platoons at SEAL Team 1. Was actually going to get out. I was one of the few SEALs who actually got to do a real world mission, right? So I had gone to Sri Lanka to do some low visibility work. I did a shipboarding, which you can actually watch on the History Channel. Every now and then it appears.
What's it called? A shipboarding?
Shipboarding, yeah. We thought the ship was had been captured by the Iranians, and there was a hostage situation. Turns out the ship committed mutiny. So it was totally gay, right?
Wow.
Wrong word. It was totally not a good. It was boring. And so I'm sitting here, 6-7 years in the SEAL teams. I'm like, this is it. Like, there was just nothing going on. The Clinton administration wouldn't allow anybody to do anything.
This is just before 01, right? 2001. Yeah. Okay.
So I went to school, went to Buds, became an instructor. I had just met my wife, and I decided to get into finance. I love numbers. Yeah. And I was dead set on becoming an investment banker. Like, that was the path. Like, I failed school the first time, which was, I hated it. The second time was so easy. Like, I was like, if you just read the book, shit's right there, right? And I was literally on the verge of getting out of the military as September 11th happened. And that obviously changed the course of my life.
Direction, yeah.
You know, and got to get selected to deploy the second rotation to Afghanistan, and then they got selected to be one of the founding members of SEAL Team 7, and then deployed multiple times to SEAL Team 7 over to Iraq. Left the military, did a little government work for a little bit, and then got hired by Paul Allen. I actually thought I was going to another government program. They kept it so secret that I thought I was going to another government program, and it turned out I was going to go to guard Paul Allen's niece and nephews. Wow. And so I arrived, and I'm like, what kind of body armor we got? What kind of guns? Like, what are we doing? They're like,
are you enlisted at this point, or is this as a private contract?
Civilian, so I'm already out.
I figured, yeah, you'd have to be, I guess.
So I got to a point in my career, right? I had a big, I wouldn't call it a setback. I had a eye-opening experience in the military.
Okay.
And you can read about it. I don't hide the thing. I was very much on the forefront of doing missions. I was sent on we were sent on a mission to capture or kill or capture a bad guy. He died, and months later, we found out he had actually died at Abu Ghraib. We had actually kicked out another SEAL from the command during that process, and that SEAL went and basically said, "If you kick me out, I'm going to tell everybody what we did at Abu Ghraib." Yep. And instead of anybody investigating whether we had ever even been to Abu Ghraib, they charged us. And so I got charged with 7 counts of murder, manslaughter.
You're part of that group. I've read about that. Holy hell!
I have the picture right here.
Your world upside down.
Yeah. So the guy, the big person was named Manad al-Jamadi. He was a terrible human being. He was a murdering person, and he and I got in a big hand-to-hand fight, and you know, I made sure that he wasn't going to fight anymore. And then later on, he died from the injuries at Abu Ghraib. But the bad part was the girl at Abu Ghraib took a picture next to him. He was dead in a body bag. And she was like, and that picture became worldwide.
Yeah, I remember that.
And essentially, they basically said, here's the guy that Cerrillo got into it with. Here's a photo. They must be guilty.
Wow.
And so, you know, everybody knows about the Eddie Gallagher story. Well, I was the first one of, I was guilty until proven innocent. So I actually went through 4 different investigations. Each time got proved completely exonerated, only to be charged again. And on the 4th and final try, it was a court-martial. I'd actually had all my charges dismissed by an investigating officer, and found out on Monday morning in the paper that I was going to be court-martialed anyway. That our own admiral said, yeah, I agree with everything the investigating officer says. All charges should be dropped, but I'm going to court-martial this guy anyway.
And so crazy.
Later on, we found out why. It was you know, basically we opened this can of worms, better do something with it, right?
That's right.
So literally, as I'm sitting outside the doors of my court martial, they call me into the room to like, listen, man, just plead guilty to posing in a photo and using harsh verbal language to enemy detainee war, which I did.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm in the photo, it's right here, right next to me. And I did call this other bad guy a complete total piece of shit. So yes, I used harsh verbal language to enemy detainee war. So I pled guilty to it. Got my wrist slapped, and it was all over. But it cost me about 57 grand. My personal money.
And just the mental torment too, and just the stress on, you know, family and friends. I mean, that's just
bad. Yeah, it was my first. It was my first, I guess you would call trauma, other than childhood trauma, right? Yeah. My first trauma, because it was one, I was addicted to the SEAL teams. Yeah. Right. That was an addiction. My family came second. I was addicted to being a war fighter.
That's pretty typical, though, isn't it? I mean, not saying that's okay. I'm just saying I've seen a lot, read a lot about them. I mean, because that kind of becomes your family, doesn't it? Your team members. I mean, just the bond that you have. From what
my wife will tell you right now, I've really only been a husband for 4 years.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So we've been married for 23. Last 4.
You must have a woman like me, brother, because I've been over 30 now, and I've been to federal prison. I've been on opiates for 14 years, and we got some pretty damn good women if they've stuck by what we put them through, you know.
Exactly, right. So she went through all that stuff with me, and when it was all said and done, I got offered a job to go do the same job, chase bad guys, but making way more money, and basically choosing my deployments. My boss was a phone call, and really there was no rules.
Wow.
Go hunt, do your thing. We don't care. Here's some money.
Would those be considered, I mean, obviously, what's the word I was thinking? Would those be considered like black ops? I mean, I know they're not part of the military because it's subcontractor stuff, but is it stuff that the military knows going on, or is it civilian?
You're working directly for the government.
Okay.
You will work with different military units. You're not attached to them.
Yeah.
So really you're working
for
a portion of the government that is in charge of keeping this country safe at the highest levels. Yeah. And it's very different now. Back then it was, I hate to say cowboy, but it was cowboy-ish. Yeah. Now there's a lot of structure in place. Back then it was like,
is the one still that had I can't think of his name, but is it Blackwater? Is that the right name of that big subcontract?
So the way it works is you'll have a government agency. In order to have, I guess, deniability, they hire security companies at a level of security to provide them operators.
Okay.
If something ever happens, they go, well, that guy works for MVM. That guy works for Blackwater. That guy works for Lucena, whatever, right? So there's complete deniability. Yep. And that's kind of the program that I was in, is I worked for a company that provided a service to an entity. Okay. And there was a group of us who did that. So did that, got back on my feet, and then my boss didn't tell us he left. He just called us one day. He's like, I need you guys in Seattle. And so we showed up to Seattle and literally thought we were going to go run missions. And he's like, no, dude, you're guarding little fat kids on a playground. You have kids, you're now on the kids team. And that's literally how good. And here's me kind of going, well, what the heck? And he's like, I'm paying you the exact same thing I paid you to go over there. Like, done. Easy.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
I really never had time with my kids. Been a teen guy.
Yeah.
So now here's me. Basically, I'm a dad. I got to coach everything. I got to be part of my kids. I got to move away from the military, which was very addictive. Obviously, I wouldn't say I was addicted to painkillers. I was dependent on them. Okay. Right. So I was not an everyday guy, but I was definitely a guy who was like, I'm feel like popping some codeine and drink some vodka. I was an alcoholic. Okay. Right. So I just didn't know I was an alcoholic.
You probably were functioning alcoholic then.
Yeah, because you had a job.
Because I was functioning to my addiction.
I have to, now that I work in addiction, the level of alcohol, essentially I was a level 2 alcoholic, whereas as soon as the day was over, I drank. Yep. I go to sleep, and I was functional at work. Didn't fuck around at work whatsoever. But when work was over, let's get it on, right? Yeah. It was a lifestyle essentially. Yeah. I did that very successfully. Had a great time. Met some great friends. As a matter of fact, most of them work for me now. And that was all the way back, before 2008, 2007 ish. And I opened my first business, which was a very small CrossFit gym, which I started in the park, like most CrossFit people started. Next thing you know, I had 25 clients. Next thing you know, I had 100 clients. I opened a facility thinking all 100 of those people who worked out with me in the park would go to the facility, like 2 came. So all you business guys understand it's all talk until it's there. That's right. And then the business grew. We grew the business from 2 clients to, at the peak of the business, 780 clients.
Wow. What would you attribute, like when you moved into the building and, everybody didn't follow you, once you realized that, what kind of steps did you take or things did you implement that, helped you from whether it's from a marketing standpoint, exposure, what kind of things did you do?
I've never done any marketing. Okay. So word of mouth. Market. I did it. I basically, as all these years later, I found out what is separating me from everybody else. I don't do anything different than anybody else. I do it better. And what I mean by that is I structure things so structured, there is no question of who's in charge, and there is no question of what the outcome is going to be. There's never a gray area of what we are doing in that moment. And so I treated the CrossFit gym as if I was just with my platoon. All right. Here's what we got, guys. Got a warm up. Here's the warm up we're doing. High knee walk. I gave him an explanation as we're going static to dynamic, dynamic to functional. Boom. Okay, now get the bars out. Going through the bars. Here's our weightlifting we're going to do. And it was a complete workout from start to finish. So you didn't just come in and like, oh, I feel like doing a WOD. It was no, we're doing a warm up. We're doing strength. We're doing a metabolic conditioning. We're doing a stretch and accessories. And if you want to keep going, here's a stamina and endurance. Here's a skills portion. And then I would vary the stuff. So there are days I would have to lie to the clients, unfortunately. I'd have to put a typical CrossFit WOD up. They'd come in, I'm like, I lied, 5K run. Because they just wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't do it. So
That, that's what people need though, is that structure and exactly what to do.
And the pricing was always up front. Like I never had little gimmicks. I never tried to sell merchandise. It was just here's what it is. And I think the most thing is that I always had been able to surround myself with really good people. And so we went through ebbs and flows with staff, but there was a point in the staff where we had just a rock star staff. Right. It didn't last very long. It lasted about 2.5, 3 years, because if you're a really good CrossFit coach, you go open your own gym.
Yeah. So
it's just a natural progression of it, right?
Yeah.
So we made the business very successful. We started in the park, then moved to 2,500 square feet, then moved to 27,000 square feet. And then we ended up being part owners in 3 other CrossFit gyms that my coaches opened, and I became a partner with them. And for a while, I call it fake fame. I had the videos made, people came like, oh, Dan Cerrillo, blah, blah, blah. He trains NFL quarterbacks. It's all crap, right? So it's just all crap. And I learned my very first lesson as to fake fame and fake reality, which is your shit stinks.
Yep.
And if you think it doesn't, it does. And when the height of the success was happening and back then for me, success was like, holy crap, we make 100,000 a month. Like that was like, oh my God, like, holy, I never imagined that in the world. Like I make $1 million, right?
Yeah.
And in an instant, it was over, right? In an instant, everything crumbled, and it really started so innocently. The city of Bellevue came in. We had a great big parking lot. We had a trail of woods in the backyard. It was really unique, 300 parking spaces. The city of Bellevue came in and said, hey, right at eminent domain, we're going to take this parking lot to expand the dump. And as an arrogant CrossFit gym owner, an arrogant SEAL, I could see the writing. I had no idea what that would mean until literally I opened my gym door one day and there was a fence. And so I went from 300 parking spaces to 6. And you never think that people in Seattle care about rain, and especially fitness people in Seattle. It turns out they do. It turns out fitness people in Seattle don't want to walk in the rain. So our membership went from 780 and never went back. Every year it went down, right? And I learned another valuable mistake when it comes to the point where you help somebody too much. I was asked to help another guy. He had been kicked out of every gym he'd been part of. He had a fledgling NFL program. I let him, use my gym, the back of my gym, to run that program. And he decided to open a gym. He decided to lie to the owner of the facility we were in to say we were partners. So I actually rented one next door to me. And not until it was in progress, the owner goes, hey, we ready to sign papers? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Next thing you know, the guy's standing in my doorway handing out flyers to my clients.
Oh.
And he had been in the gym long enough for a lot, because I'm a business owner. I can't be friends with all these clients. So took a big chunk of the clients from us. It hurt. And then, basically these other little tiny things happened. We improved the lights in the gym. We did all this work. Then an inspector came in. She's like, great lights. I'm finding you for all this other crap. Like, I don't own this building. I'd rent it, right? And then my wife got sick. And when my wife got sick is when everything disintegrated. I had never in a million years imagined, I'd never known helplessness.
Jeez.
Right. Like I don't know how to describe it. All I can describe, and this is where really my life starts. Up till then, it was action, adventure, coolness.
It's like someone like you who's a take charge,
everything,
solve problems. There's no problem that you can't, just dig in and figure it out. Well, all of a sudden you got one that you can't.
Everything to that point, I would eat buds. Buds was easy. SEAL teams were easy. Everything was easy, right? This business shit isn't hard. It's easy.
Yeah.
My wife got sick. I learned what helplessness was. I learned what darkness is.
Yeah.
Like this is something for any of the listeners. You ever want to know what pain is? Pain, yeah, I can show you the pictures of my friends who are dead. You shave your wife's head.
Jeez.
You shave your wife. I mean, it's hard for me to control myself right now.
Hell yeah.
that's PTSD, right? That's PTS. And I shaved my wife's head, and every stroke of that razor was me carrying one of my friends to their grave.
Man.
I lost a lot of friends, right? And from that point on, it was just blackness. I drank.
Jeez.
I hated God.
Yep.
The business is just crumbling in front of me. The business was so bad after she got sick that now I had a second job paying for the worst staff imaginable just because they were there. Like it was really like, I'm paying these people to be incompetent.
Wow.
Like it would just sicken me, right? Finally, I finally found another guy who's like, hey man, I want to buy the equipment. I want to buy the membership, whatever. And even then one of our own coaches stole the member list, used it to open another. It was just like, I mean, if you couldn't kick me on the ground any harder.
Yeah, no kidding.
Here's the final insult to it. Taught me a lot. It was the trial, and that were the two greatest things that ever happened to me.
Yeah, I was about to say that, out of the darkest times sometimes comes, the most precious diamonds in a way,
So I spent about 2.5 years in complete darkness. I actually got a really good job. I got recruited to go become part of 𝐒𝐸𝐵RIN's security team.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Google.
Yeah. Google.
But still have my security skills. And I talk to people now. People will say, like, I had no idea you had a drinking issue. I had no idea. That just happened very well, right?
Yeah.
And the reality was I contemplated taking my life. The only reason, because the insurance policy, it wasn't because my life was bad. I'm like, well, if I take my life, there's $750,000 for my family.
Yeah.
It's debt off, because we paid debt on the gym for 2 years after we closed it, right?
Wow.
And those thoughts go through your brain, right? Because it's just, you're sitting there as a SEAL. My job was to kill people. It's the reality. And here's my wife laying in bed, and this cancer is attacking her. I can't shoot it, strangle it, stab it, throw it off a building. I can't do anything to this cancer. There's nothing that I can do. And then you take her to do her chemotherapy, and you just, God darn, I get emotional. Sorry.
Hey, bro, I do a lot, so don't worry about it.
You're just, I can't describe it. It's it still kills me, right? And the guilt, right? Like the guilt that you feel of like, how can you do this to this woman who is so beautiful, who deals with my shit so much, right? Because I was not a good human being. I was just a barbarian. Like, I was smart, I could solve things, but I was an asshole.
Yeah.
And here she is dying. My family's falling apart. The kids, my sons, who I was so out of it, I didn't even realize my sons were struggling. And so one day we did a little football meeting, and the kids all spoke. My nephews spoke, my sons, and they just bawling, talking about my wife.
Jeez.
I literally blinders, didn't even see it. My oldest son and I are having massive conflict, because he's big, he's jacked, he's training to be a SEAL. And now my wife's sick. There's 2 fucking lions in the den. And my daughter, she's falling apart. She's this supreme athlete, but emotionally she's me, but she can't control it back then. So she's, lashing out, and just chaos. Yeah. My way of dealing with it was just drinking. Yeah. Right. And the great thing was I had a job in Silicon Valley that paid me a lot of money now. So we're recovering from the debt, where I'm able to feed the family. My wife's not have to work during the cancer, but my way of dealing was just, drink. Yeah. To the point where you even get to the bottles underneath the bed, right? Oh yeah. Yeah. Bottles stored everywhere. And I was smart enough to never drink during work, but I definitely drank up until the point where I went blackout drunk and had to wake up for work, things of that nature. Yeah. And, like a 2.5 year period of darkness, to the point where I went from the #1 employee there to being sat down and being told, like, the only reason we don't fire you is your wife is sick. Wow. I just lost communicate. I was just done. Right. And it was like literally everything happens in chains of events. Right. Yeah. So here I am being sat down, like, if your wife wasn't sick, we'd fire you. You better make a change. Literally a week later, Grant Dawson, who's now the COO of my company,
Is that the
calls
Spartan
me.
7? Is that Spartan 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Grant calls me, and he was the CEO. He was my CEO back then. Now he's my COO. And he calls me. He's like, I want you to research this therapy from this, this foundation called Mission Within. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what is it? He's like, it's a psychedelic therapy.
Dude,
Well, I didn't tell
yeah.
Grant that I couldn't freaking read and write anymore. So I go home to my wife, who, is essentially at a point where she hates my guts now because I'm just an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And tell her about it. She actually writes the paper while she's laying in bed. Right. And of course, like an asshole, I critique her paper that I didn't write.
Yeah.
And I turned the paper in. George, who's the big CEO of Bayshore Global, calls me in. And here I think I'm like, man, I'm getting fired. This paper is terribly written. Right. And he's like, do you believe in this? And I'm like, at this point, a lot of my friends are taking their own lives. And I know where I'm at in life. And I'm like, George, I just don't see any other options, man. He goes, well, would you do me a favor and go watch it? So myself and another SEAL went down and watched it. And what I saw was indescribable, life-changing.
What was it you were watching?
Watching my fellow SEALs go through the therapy.
Okay, gotcha. Because I've recently been digging into that. It's a Sean Ryan story about it.
And I pulled Dr. Palenko aside and I said, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Like, what's up? He goes, I said, I'm an alcoholic. All I want to do is kill people. I fucking hate human beings. I hate everything about my life. I just want to murder people because that's the only thing I was ever good at. He goes, I know. What do you mean? He goes, all of you were like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean all of us? He goes, Dan, all I treat are soft guys. He goes, all of you are alcoholics. All of you want to murder people. All of you are isolationists. All of you. And the first time in my life, I'm like, man, there's other guys.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that crazy?
I'm looking at the dudes who are there. I'm like, that's not me, right? That never happened to me.
Yep.
And here I am watching it going, like, okay, I guess there's 4 of us. He's like, no, dude, hundreds of you, thousands of you. And so the very next weekend, I flew back down. And during that week, I went from let's do it to kind of like, I don't really have a problem.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. And literally Thursday night, I get shit-faced drunk, show up to the bus on Friday morning, basically detoxing, driving down there, which, I get in a lot of trouble if they know now, but I'm like,
yeah, because you're supposed to be. Yeah.
Treatment if we would have known that, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And I literally was so ashamed on the drive there that I couldn't look at my mentor, Bob Wheeler, who's a Vietnam SEAL. I couldn't look at him. I just cried. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, how in the frick did I get here, man?
Wow.
Like, how did you get to you're going to therapy?
Yeah.
Like you're dancing, man, like they make videos about you, right? And so I went down there and I'd never been around hippies, right? I've never been around peace-loving human beings before. So they're like doing the sage shit around me. And I'm like, weirdos. So then they literally, it's the Matrix. Like, here's these pills.
What did you guys do? Was it ayahuasca or was it ibogaine? Ibogaine. Okay.
Now they're hooking up to the EKG, right?
Yeah.
They're like, this is really dangerous.
To Mexico?
Die. You done in Mexico, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm already dead. I'm already dead. Whatever, like if this is the way, if this is it, this is it. And I've kind of always been that way. Like, shit, if I die doing what I love, I die doing it,
Yeah.
So literally, here's 3 pills, and they give me the 3 pills, and I'm like, what do I got to lose? It's all over anyway. I got nothing to lose. So I took the 3 pills. I'd never taken drugs before.
Yeah.
Right? I probably smoked marijuana.
Yeah, I mean, this is totally. Yeah, this is a totally next level situation in a positive. I mean, I think this should be legalized, but anyway, go ahead. This is so beautiful to me.
Yeah. And so then, they put the headphones on, they put the blinders on, I go lay in bed and it starts. And when it starts, I'm, here's me, like, I'm really small compared to what I used to be. I used to be really jacked, right? I'm old now. I feel like I'm like, I can feel them punching the bed around me. And I'm like, I'm probably not the dude you want to do that with. Right. So I'm laying there and I'm like, I'm in my brain. I'm like, this just must be the way the hippies do this. Right.
Yeah.
They're like initiate me. punch again around the bed, and then they're shaking the bed, and I'm like, you're starting to make me mad. I'm trying to enjoy this hot shit, right? I'm trying to wait for this thing to happen. And so finally on one of them, they start spinning the bed in circles. And I'm like, dang, these dudes are strong. So I pull my blinder up real quick. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm hallucinating, right? I've never hallucinated before. This is a hallucination. So this circuit kind of goes on, lightning bolts and flashes of light, and then these computer files. It's an Apple file from an Apple computer. And it opens up, and it's a story. And the story starts playing. I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm 5 years old. I'm in my underoos, right? I'm watching my underoos. I'm watching Dukes of Hazzard. I see my mom walk over to the fireplace to start a fire. She puts a gasoline can in. We just got this house, she finally got a job where she could afford some rent. Nice house. She starts a fire, throws a match in there, and poof. Next thing you know, the house is on fire. House is burning down around me. I can hear my mom, Daniel, vente, vente. She grabbed hold of me. Give me a second. She grabs hold of me, and we run into the house, right? And house burns down. And this house burns down on fire. And then I could hear this screaming. And I see my dog running back and forth, and the dog's on fire. And I remember in that moment, I'm like, now I know why I hate dogs.
Wow.
I hated dogs.
Yeah.
Like, I thought dogs are despicable, disgusting animals. Like, they touch me, lick me, get away from me,
Wow.
And I'm like, I remember that dog.
Wow.
Right. So that plays out, and I'm kind of sitting there and like the sadness, right?
Yeah.
So then, you literally, I'm flying. I fly to another place, and another computer file opens, and it's late at night, probably like 7 p.m. late for a 5-6-year-old, and my brother and I are at baseball practice, and we come home, and we're like hiding in the weeds behind the house. And I can hear my mom, Daniel, David. When the baseball park is only right down the road, right? So we're laughing, we're giggling, we're laughing, we're giggling. And finally, after, I don't know, about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we're like, here we are. And instead of my mom being happy, mom's mad. And my mom hurts us really bad, right? And I understood that, right? Like, right then in that moment, all those things that happened over the next couple of days made me understand why being a SEAL was so easy. Like, you can't beat me. You can't starve me. You can't, make me sleep in a closet. You can't hurt me. That shit's already been done to me. That happened to me when I was 5, right? And that explained to me, like, you can't ever harm this. So that was like this big, like, epiphany, right? And now I know why I had this anger to my mom, right? This anger, right? So kind of fly on, and next one appears really quick, and it's like it's maybe 4 or 5 days later, and we're laying in the hospital, right? And my brother's in there. Whew. I've talked about this a while. My brother's in the bed next to me, and he's beat up really bad, and she hurt us real bad. Wow. And so the kind of work, hospital stays ending. We've been there for 4 or 5 days, and my brother's dad is there, and he's so angry, so he takes my brother. And I never see my brother again, right? Jeez. And that made me understand why I was so close to my SEAL brothers. Yeah, right. Like, why I was so willing to do anything it would to take care of them dudes, because my brother had been taken from me, right? And so, kind of that thing ends, and you're on to the next one. The next one is this screen come down, another thing, and thing is open, and it's Betty Johansson. And so Betty Johansson was a neighbor of mine who she used to babysit me, and she was just this beautiful blonde woman, right? She had a real job. She wore business suits, and she's very kind. Like, we're friends on Facebook now, right? Very, very kind. And it was like, she loved me.
Yeah.
And I'm in that moment, I'm like, "Ah, that explains that. This is why you're so attracted to blonde, beautiful older women. Right? I've never been into young girls, right? I don't
Yeah.
look at like girls in bikinis and go, oh, like they
Yeah.
just don't do anything for me. I see a woman in a business suit, a blonde woman, I'm like, baby, what's up? Woman, I'm like, that's what I always wish my mom would have been.
Wow.
So all this stuff, because they tell you before you go to Mexico, go there with questions. What questions you want to find? I'm like,
Yeah.
I got all the answers. You can't tell me anything. And then
Right.
within like, it probably was hours, but in that moment, those questions were answered. Boom, 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 like right away. And I'm like, whoa, wow, blown away, right? So through the whole rest of the night, many of those things happened, right? And a lot of sadness, deep sadness. But the one thing that didn't happen was there was no war stories.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
So no war things came out of my brain. Because the whole time I was telling you, you gotta get PTSD from the war. And I was like, I don't know if I do because I like
Wow.
the war, right? Like I
Yeah.
was in my element in war. I
Yep.
got promoted. I got to do some cool stuff. And yeah, you're scared, but I was never so scared where I'm like trauma. And then people get hurt. You're like, man, but look how they got hurt. Look what we're
Yeah.
doing, and we're it, right? So I didn't have. I convinced myself I did. The reality
Yeah.
was
All before, right?
yeah, I'm a violent dude, and I'm in the heart of violence. I'm where I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be. And so I the whole night, all these stories, and one thing I kept asking they tell you to ask the medication, right?
Yeah.
Like ask it, and I kept saying, just show me my wife, man. Like show me my wife.
Damn, you're
Show
choking me up right when you said that.
Yeah, like show me the one good thing I've ever had in my life. This is the only person who's ever given a fuck about me, right? And so I tell kids this all the time, like the SEAL teams don't care about you. SEAL teams don't give a fuck about you. They don't care if you make it, anything. It's up to you to prove you belong.
Yeah.
For my wife, I've never had to do that. She just loved me, right? And so the medication wouldn't show me her. But this purple rain, as the sadness was so intense, this purple rain would fall and wash the sadness away and on to the next sadness, right? And there's hundreds and hundreds of these computer files, right? And finally, after hours of this shit, me getting really mad, like why it won't show me the one good thing, won't show me anything good. It's only showing me terrible things. I figured out, I'm like, oh shit, my wife's my purple rain,
Wow.
right? Like,
Washing all the
holy
sadness
shit,
from you.
my wife's my purple rain.
Wow.
Right? Every time my life gets horrible, there's this one thing that keeps me from crossing that line, right? Because there's a line that if my family wasn't here, man, I'd cross that line in a second, bro. Right? Like I would do this stuff for money.
Yeah.
And this is the reason I'm not a criminal. My wife, right? And big epiphany, right? So you got, I remember having this really dark, I'll tell this because this is a funny part, right? This really dark moment, like super dark moment. And every time it's really getting dark, this purple rain falls, I could feel somebody laying down next to me. And so I'd reach over and there's nobody there, right? Well, one of these times I reach over and I'm like, that feels like a boob. And I'm like, that's a boob. So I lift my blindfold up and it's my counselor, Deanna. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Because I consider myself a gentleman, right? She goes, it happens.
Oh
And
my
I'm like,
gosh.
I'm kind of sitting like, she goes, I felt like you needed somebody right now. I'm like,
Wow.
did right? And she's put her hand on my chest, and I went back into the thing. And the thing about ibogaine is you're not stoned.
Right. Right.
Blinders off.
It's
It's
still, yeah.
right. You put them back on, you're on a journey, right? So it's kind of crazy that way. And so the whole night went through it. Next morning, you're still, now it's not intense. They take the EKG off, the doctor leaves, nurse leaves. Now it's just kind of you alone. There's a knot of wood on the wall. And that whole day, that knot of wood told me this story. And the story is just demonic, right? Of my childhood, all these things, right? And so I woke up the next day of complete, like, why me? Right. And I'm not that dude.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there for a couple hours, like, why me? Like, why me, man? Then I went from why me to like, I don't really care. I don't care. I went from I don't care to, you know what? It is what it is. I went from it is what it is to I'm glad it happened. I'm
Wow.
glad all that stuff happened because I'm a great father. I've never laid hands on my children. I love my wife with all my heart, my soul. I love my friends. I try to be a man of honor and integrity. So all that happened to make me this. I'm a SEAL because you can't hurt me. Everything that happened in SEAL teams, BUDS, had already been done to me. So BUDS was easy. And the final phase of that was forgiveness, right? I just said, you know what, man, I'm tired of hating people.
Yep.
I'm tired of being so angry. I'm tired of wanting to hurt people. I remember just kind of sitting there going, I don't ever want to hurt another human being again. I'm tired of it, man. I've hurt so many people. I've taken people's lives. I just don't ever want to do it again, right? I will, but I don't want to, right? Whereas before it was like, I didn't mind doing it. You know, I get stumped, right? I played, you know, whatever. And I remember kind of sitting there, the place where I was, this beautiful mansion, and you're overlooking this ocean, and I'm sitting there just, you know, I probably lost 50 pounds of tears, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know, I could see my mom in a corner, an image of my mom. Now, it didn't talk to me. I could just see the outline, right? And by this point, I hadn't talked to my mom in probably 10 years. And kind of sitting there, and I'm like, I'm not mad anymore, though. I'm not mad, but I'm just like, just show me one time you love me.
Yeah.
You just show me something, man. Like, show me you actually gave a fuck about me.
Yeah.
And literally in that moment, the moon came down and it shimmered over the water. And I just sat there. I'm like,
Wow.
and I laid down, I went to sleep. And it was the first time I had slept through the night. I don't know how long, because I always track my sleep, right? Usually I get about 2 hours of sleep. And by the time I went to Mexico, I was getting 45 minutes of sleep a night. And they say when you're under an hour of sleep per night, you're within 1 year of your death, right?
Wow.
And I saw that and I went to sleep. I slept all the way through the night. I woke up the next day. I was so happy. So like it was like, and I talk about this all the time when I talk to people, we all carry this backpack, and in that backpack is trauma, bricks of trauma. And we focus on that top brick so much. We do some counseling, maybe we'll take a brick or two out, take some medications, maybe we put the flap on the backpack, but that trauma is there. I got to take my backpack and dump the shit out.
Amen.
I dumped it out, right? When I put it back on, there were 3 bricks, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. 3 bricks left in that backpack. And I woke up the next morning, I was so happy, right? So I remember just kind of like, oh, God, I feel so light. And then you kind of come back to the circle, and you're all alone this whole time. Like the counselors come in, you want to talk? I'm like, I want to talk.
Yeah.
Circle again, and now you see your other bros who are doing this with you, and like, hey, we're gonna do this other drug. You know, it's called 5-MeO-DMT, and it serves 2 purposes. One, it's called the God molecule, so you're gonna have a different psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
2, it's the only known drug that actually repairs brain tissue. All of you guys have brain damage. So I'm like, okay, you know, what do I gotta lose, man? I don't care, right? And so they're like, who wants to go first? I'm like, fuck it, I'll go. Let's go, right? So I'm sitting there, and you know, like, okay. He's like, hey, you're gonna smoke this shit. I'm like, and it's hard for me because I've always been like, I like ultra stuff. Like I like Ironmans, I like ultra, I like long things. I'm like, I'm gonna put something in my lungs.
Yeah.
That was the scary part for me, right? Like not anything else. So like you could have a near-death experience. I'm like, bro, I've already had those. I got blown up in Solder City. I saw the white light. Me and my buddy, you know, landed too hard on a parachute jump, with tangled with each other. I'm cool. That doesn't scare me. So I take the first hit, and he's like, you know, you're gonna have this godlike experience. So I take the first hit. I did not have a godlike experience. I went to hell.
Really?
Hell. And while I was in hell, I got to find the answer to why my mom was so cruel.
Really?
And it took me back to a night, I probably was like 4, maybe it just turned 5. And it's a party, a lot of people around, and there's a lot of guys there.
Oh,
and next thing I know, they start attacking my mom.
Oh man.
Right. And my brother and I are there, and we watched it. And we tried to help.
Damn.
But we were just too small.
Yeah.
Right. And in that moment, I could hear everything. Right. And I saw everything. And I learned about suppression, right?
Yeah.
I was just like, that explains why I hate men so much. That explains why it was so easy for me to kill them, you know? So you kind of, it's like a 15-minute journey there, whatever.
Was that like stuck in a different, I mean, like that was in your subconscious somewhere. It wasn't, you didn't really have that ever come to your
I didn't even
consciousness.
remember it.
Yeah, it just was
I didn't
done.
remember
Yeah. Yep. So
You know what I
the
mean?
drugs that brought it to the surface. Yep.
Most of the stuff that came out, I didn't remember. And
Right.
I actually thought I made it up and dreamt it. It was later on, and my brother was like, you know, so I came out of it, and I'm kind of sitting there, you know, and Dr. Plank was like, you know, how you feel? I'm like, and there's other SEALs in the room, kind of as your guides.
Yeah.
Like, I need all these dudes to leave the room right now. He's like, why, what's up? I'm like, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to kill them all. Like, I don't want, I can feel them. Like, I don't want any men near me right now. I want to attack them. It was so much anger, right? Like, I'm going to attack. I want to kill men right now. And he's like, you want me to leave? I'm like, no, he's a real small dude. I'm like, you're safe.
It's like, I'm sure.
Yeah, so Deanna and Lauren and the two counselors, and I'm like, you guys can stay, right? And he's like, you want to do another hit? I'm like, well, yeah, dude, I didn't go to heaven. You know, like, I want to see the heaven part. That shit made me angry. And so I took the next hit, and I got to rewind past that night to where my mom was this very gentle, loving, beautiful woman. She was funny, right? She made jokes. You know, it was just this, oh, I remember, mommy, I remember you, right? And powerful, right? Like, oh my gosh. And in that moment, like, I was a little kid again. My mom was this beautiful, loving person, you know? So I did that hit, and I did one more hit. And in that final moment, I literally was like, holy shit, my mom did the best she could.
Yep.
My mom did the best she could. Every man that was ever in her life beat her and raped her. And she never gave up. She tried her hardest, and I'm proud of her.
Hell yeah.
Right. And I remember just like, fuck, man. I remember picking up the phone and I called her. I called her in years. Like, and I just told her that. I'm like, I'm proud of you. You did the best she could. I get it now. I remember. Right. And by then, you know, my mom was doing very well. She lost a lot of her mind, you know, and
yeah.
But biggest healing thing that could possible. So, you know, we leave Mexico, and we drive to the border, and these dudes are knocking on the window, you know, like trying to sell you shit. And this dude knocks on the window and goes, Senor, tequila. And that was my drink, right? I drink 2 bottles a day. And I looked at him and I'm like, I don't drink.
Wow.
I remember, like,
everyone's going, what?
Who said that, right? And I'm like, I don't drink.
Dude.
I've tried so many times, right? I've embarrassed myself so many times when I'm drinking, and I literally am like, I don't want alcohol.
Yeah.
It's funny, I could smell it. He's right there at the window, and I could smell it. I'm like, man, shit smells disgusting.
Wow.
Get away from me, bro. But I was nice about it. I'm like, hey, would you please, like, right?
Unreal.
So we drove, and on the drive back to San Diego, my phone rings, and it's my buddy Matt Myers. And I gotta remember, I'm just leaving therapy, and he's like, he's a very successful guy. He goes, hey, man, you're not gonna believe what's happening right now. He's like, I was just thinking, you know, I've been able to make a lot of money. I've been able to do a lot of things. He goes, and I'm trying to figure out, how do I donate this money? He goes, and two Black Hawks flew over the house. He's like, Black Hawks never fly over here. He's like, we're nowhere near anywhere. He goes, so I thought of you. Who should I donate money to? I'm like, Navy SEAL Fund. Like, Navy SEAL Fund. I'm like, we pay for dudes to get to this therapy within 24 hours, right?
Hell yes.
And I came back to Silicon Valley, and it was the very first time in my life where I felt comfortable talking, and I felt comfortable listening. And so as soon as I arrived, there's another SEAL there, and he is not doing good. And I remember just sitting with him for hours, and he talked to me. He had never talked ever. And first time he just opened up to me, and he was like, my parents raped me, you know, all these, he was in an orphanage, all these terrible things. Right. And I'm like, you should go down to Mexico. And then I went on Facebook. Yeah. And I told my story on Facebook. And next thing you know, dudes started contacting me like, "Hell, man, I read your story. Like, how do I do this? You know, I don't want to live." And it's some very powerful stuff, right?
Yeah. How long ago was it that you did this?
4 years ago on 4 years ago, as of
No way.
let's see. Yeah, 2 days ago was my 4-year anniversary.
Dude, congrats. I mean,
So,
dude, this is so powerful. Like, I appreciate you being willing to be this vulnerable.
so I, I start talking to dudes, whatever, and I go home, and this is where the bricks come back into play. Is I had dumped my backpack out, but there are 3 bricks in there, and one of my bricks was dogs. We had a dog, and before I left, this dog came close to becoming a carpet many times. Right? So I come home, and the dog, dogs, man, they're just so excited to see you. They're just like, I love you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this dog didn't do anything to you. And so as soon as I came in, I called my wife. I'm like, "Hey, remember the baby gates we got for little Curran?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Put one of those baby gates in the kitchen, put the dog on one side, I'll be on the other." So I came in, as soon as I opened the door, dog's going crazy as normal. But then my second brick is sitting in front of me, shoes. I remember I'm poor. I'm so poor. I used to go to the shoe bin and try matching pairs. So my kids, they got shoes everywhere.
Yeah.
I used to freak out, throw the shoes in the yard, throw them in the garbage, whatever. I pick up all the shoes and I put them in the cubbies. I walk over to the dog. I start petting the dog to the fence. Every time I come in the house, she pees, right? She's so scared of me. Now she doesn't pee. I open the gate. We become friends. We're back to being friends with each other, right? 2 bricks gone. I understood my bricks now. And the third brick, I had a business deal go really bad with another 2 SEALs. And I remember just called them. I'm like, "Hey guys, this was my 20th business deal. This is your guys' first. I love you. You're my friends. If you think what you're doing is right, do it." I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I don't care about that anymore. Whatever. A year later, those guys called me back and they were like, "Everything you said was right." And that was the end of my bricks.
Wow.
Right. Which then, everything kind of started happening. Everything started rolling.
Yeah.
I started getting more and more phone calls from people, from other SEALs, like, "Hey man, I'm hurting." And so I had met Michael Cartwright at a SEAL wannabe training event where I'm spraying the dude in the face with water and calling names and all kinds of, like, dragging him across concrete and shit. And I called him up. I'm like, "Hey Michael, hey man, I need help. You got 2,000, you got the biggest addiction company in the world. I got my friends, I got 5 beds.
Yeah.
My friends in your beds." He's like, "Well, we don't really treat veterans. We try, but we can't make any money from it," right? He's a for-profit business.
Yeah.
He's like, "I tell you what, come down here, talk to my staff. Maybe you can invigorate them to want to help veterans, and we'll see where it goes." So I flew down here to Nashville. I gave my speech, told my story.
Jeez.
And he's like, "Hey, do you think you could help us get this VA stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, my buddy Scotty's the chief of staff for the secretary. I can just call him." So call Scotty. He's like, don't do that. Call this dude here. Call that dude there. Call this dude. Like 90 days later, Michael calls me. He's like, "Bro, we just got a check for like $12 million. I'm like, "Huh?" He goes, "Whip to this point, they've been treating veterans for free, trying to get paid."
Yeah.
First check from all that back pay came, it was like $12 million. He's like, I need you to meet me in the Bahamas." I'm like, "I got a job, bro." He goes, "No, meet me in the Bahamas. I want to do ibogaine. I want to do stem cells. I want to do all these things I've been talking about." He goes, "I'm going to buy this hospital in Bahamas. We can't do it in America, so we'll just do it right here. And we'll fly him back to the center in Tampa and Fort Lauderdale, the counseling, inpatient, et cetera," which I had no clue
Yeah.
what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So I fly down to the Bahamas, meet him down there. And he's like, "You know anybody here?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I know a lot of people here because from Google, it's called GSD, Global Support and Development, which is a privately funded humanitarian team. And so we had jumped into the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos after hurricanes to help them get the country back up and running."
Okay.
People don't know this. We didn't advertise it, right? But
Right.
it's kind of out there now. But in the beginning, it was, it's like almost nobody wanted. The family didn't want anybody to know where the money came from or who we were. So we would attach to other Yacht Aid Global, Care International. We show up and like, "You don't look like Yacht Aid. You don't look like Care International. Like, what are the new ones?" Right? And, so I went down there, called my homeboy Chester Cooper. He's probably gonna be the prime minister. And I'm like, "Hey, Chester, like Michael would like to meet you." He's like, oh, I arranged a meeting with the minister of health, and I'm minister this and this. And so Michael's like, who are you? I'm like, I'm just a dude, man. I just know some people, right? So he looks at a hospital. We go through everything. As I'm down there, Grant Dawson calls me, and Grant's like, hey man, I'm gonna have to let these other two dudes the other two guys go. They had a big incident. The company knows about it. Would you like to be promoted up into basically be my number two? And I'm like, yeah, it's a big deal, right? Like it's a $90 billion family office. And I'm being jumped over. I'm a director at this point. I'm being moved into a C-suite. And I'm like, yeah, right. And who wouldn't want that, right? I know the salary comes with that. I know everything comes with it. And so I leave the bedroom, literally walk out of the bedroom. And Michael's like, I guess I had a look on my face. Michael's like, what's up? I'm like, I just got promoted. He's like, well, screw that. Come be my chief of staff.
No,
I'm like, you can't afford me, bro. Like, it's Sergey, homie, you know? And he's like, I'll pay you anything you want. You can do it. I'm like, and you know, you hear it. I hear that stuff all the time, right?
Sure.
So I fly home, and the whole ride home, I'm just like, I go home to my wife, and I'm like, here's the deal. I have a job offer here that is essentially going to pay me more money than I can ever fathom.
Yep.
I have a job offer here. It's probably going to pay me near what I make now. But I'm going to be able to help people, a lot of people. She's like, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I just feel like this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like it's the right thing to do. I'm like, I go, you know, it's like, I'd like to make all this money, and I'm like, but I don't know what I'd do with it anyway. Yeah. And I go, you know, I've been doing this rat race shit for so long. I don't really do anything. I don't really, like, there's nothing.
Yeah, make it real.
I don't feel anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember just calling Michael, and I'm like, here's the deal, man. Here's what I need to make. This is what I make now. I need you to match it. Obviously, I'd like to have a raise, but really what I want is equity. I want to be an owner of a company one day. I want to be a shareholder. I was like, and I'm willing to work for it. I don't want it just right away. Yeah. I go, my only work thing is I only have two rules. I want to help veterans. I want them to come to this company. I don't want them to spend a dime. Yeah. And I don't want to answer to anybody. I want to answer only to you. Because I don't need a bunch of fucking little wormy little politicians trying to guide me, right? Yeah. Like, I don't need 27 vice presidents trying to give me an opinion. Yeah. I know what's the matter with my friends. And he's like, done. So I came to Nashville as a chief of staff, and you know, built a veteran program. It started with like 4 veterans, and by the time I left, it was like 400. Started with 1 hospital. By the time I left, it was 7 hospitals. And completely funded, VA funded. Whatever the VA wouldn't cover, we got charities to cover. We work in conjunction with Mexico treatment programs. So guys go to Mexico, get psychedelics, come back to inpatient, outpatient. Right now, we're housing 70 homeless veterans in Las Vegas. Oh, man, one of the final things that I did. Right. And life was great there, man. Life was great. The company was on the brink of collapse. The veteran program pulled it out of it, because the VA, the one thing the VA does right is that. Or they do that right. Most insurances give you 15 days of inpatient. The VA gives 90 to 120 days. Oh, wow. Right? At full price. Good to hear. They actually commit to veterans, right? And from a financial standpoint, it was massive. And it was just awesome to be part of something, restructuring a company. The unfortunate side is, you know, the board of directors chose to remove Michael as the CEO. And install another guy named Andrew McWilliams. Andrew was the best leader I ever worked for. The epitome of servant leader, the epitome of everything that I model. I finally met my equal, right? Like, I've been working with my equals before, but I met a guy who I'm like, damn, I think that dude's better than me. Gotcha. Way harder. I would look at that dude. I'm like, man, I think you work way harder than me, you know? And I ended up being in Andrew's hip pocket for a long time. We did a lot of good stuff. And, you know, again, new board of directors, company gets sold, new board of directors comes in, brings another guy in, not a bad guy, nothing bad to say about him. I just couldn't work with him. Yeah. And so I decided, you know, I've done everything I can do with this company. And one of the big things where Spartan 7 came from was these guys who I'm getting therapy for needed jobs. They didn't want to go back and do regular
Wow.
jobs. So I had met all these billionaires.
That's cool.
And I'm like, hey, I got a security company. I got good, sober dudes. I need to give them long-term jobs. I don't need one-year jobs. And for some reason, about 9 of these billionaires, that we want those guys. And that's where Spartan 7 Security was born from.
That is so cool.
Put well over 100 guys to work in the first year and a half, which has now grown to another security company called Spartan 7 Industries. And the new client of that's only one client. We have 20 sites there, and we're taking guys who are not at the level of special operations. They're still veterans and former law enforcement guys. Now we're putting them to work at guarding construction sites.
Oh, wow.
Again, with that team-based mentality, long-term, paying them more than a regular construction site.
Yeah.
And by virtue for me, growing a company, being able to employ my friends, make a living, etc. It's been this big circle, right? It's a big circle of this is what I'm good at. I can help guys and I can get them back to work, which is now growing a fourth iteration of Spartan 7, which is our training thing, where I want to take guys leaving the military and guys leaving law enforcement and show them how to become corporate security guys. Because most guys leave the military, you're not going to become an EP guy, security, maybe a manager. I'm showing guys how to be C-suite level. And that's the next thing we're doing, is basically taking those highly experienced guys, showing them from the educational standpoint what certifications they need, but also giving them the training of how to be in board meetings, how to write emails, how to communicate with a gay, lesbian, trans community in a workplace environment. Like, you can't go in there and be like, like, no, that don't work, bro. These people, and because you may not agree with the way they live, you still got to lead them. You got to find common ground, right? Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever you want to call it. You got to find a way to make your team of differing individuals work. And that's one of the things that we really focus on. That's what I loved about American Addiction Center, was we had a lot of people from very diverse backgrounds. Transitioning people. I hate to use the word homosexuals because I just think it doesn't sound right, but people who had a different lifestyle. And to me, I learned what love was. Like, if you're love and you're happy, who am I to say
their business? Absolutely.
And I was that guy, like, do you do your job? I don't care what you do outside of here. You do your job. How do I help you make you do your job better? How do I make your job easier? How do I make it more efficient? Right? Because that's what leadership is, right? And lead with compassion and empathy, right? And so I decided to take a step back from American Addiction Centers and do a little consulting with a couple other companies. But the reality is I've been able to get Spartan 7, grow it now about 400%.
Wow.
And get over 400 veterans, law enforcement guys back to work. That's cool. Just have fun doing it.
Well, and be fulfilled, I'm assuming. That's one of the biggest things, right? I mean, like you said, because that's what the way, I mean, when we're truly helping someone else, I mean, that's what fulfills me more than any amount of money I've ever made or could make, and you obviously learned that and proved that yourself, and by the choice you made there, which way you went there at the end. And I think that is so cool. And then to take Spartan 7 and create something that you can still impact your brothers and people. Dude, what a great story. I mean, I didn't know that piece at all, obviously. I mean, but over the last few months, I've been looking into that a lot more, because actually, I'd heard about it and knew a little bit about the 𝐒𝐨𝐵𝐿 gain stuff. And then I heard, on Sean Ryan's show, his personal experience with it.
I live right down the road from me.
I figured when you said you're in Nashville, you can't be too far.
The day before yesterday, I was just with him. So
but what a cool, that was just so cool to hear. And, same thing with the alcohol, and he just hasn't had a drink since. I hadn't even thought about it. I mean, it's just, and then just, I think it's a great thing, to reference is try to find out the bricks in your backpack,
That's the thing, right? It's like, I've learned, because there's so many guys write books about this stuff, right? They're way better spoken than me. And most of the books, I don't read them. People are like, you read this book? I'm like, no, I lived it, right? But what I've really done is, instead of going, woe is me, really learn to go, understand how I learn. And I think a lot of people on this podcast will resonate with this, is Dan learns the hard way.
Yep.
Want to teach me a lesson, punch me in the face and go, what'd you learn?
That's me.
And, people will go, you've climbed mountains. I've never climbed a mountain. I've climbed a canyon. I'm the kid who stood on the side of the Grand Canyon and threw a dart every single time, hit a bullseye. And then as I walked to get my dart, I fell down the canyon. Then I had to climb out of that fucking canyon.
That's right.
I never had to climb a mountain. I've had to climb out of a canyon because being in flat ground's easy. And there's some success, easy.
Yep.
Going back to get your dart to do it again, that's where I fail. I fail all the time, right? And I fall so hard down such deep crevices. But now, for the first time in my life, the last 4 years, I don't self-sabotage myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the hardest part I struggle with is, I do have a therapist. Her name's Mikra. And she's like, Dan, it's okay to not have the shoe hanging above your head. Cause I always feel that way. Like the shoe's going to drop on my head.
Yeah.
So I kind of made peace I wouldn't say I made it, starting to make peace with it's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like, don't do stupid things. Here's one thing that I like to tell people now is especially I'll have guys on my staff or people who we know, like they apologize. I'm like, you don't apologize. And if you wouldn't have done it, you wouldn't have to apologize. So I tell myself all the time, right before I do something stupid, if you don't do this,
wow, that's great.
People use the word integrity. It's such a big word for some people. I just look at it and go, I'm about to punch that dude. I'm gonna feel really bad for it later on. If I don't do it, I don't have to apologize for it. I can just walk away. And walking away is something that's the hardest thing in the world for me. I'm just, punching a dude's euphemism. I'm talking about in business, talking about decision making of like, this decision is not going to go well for me. So just don't do it. And you don't have to worry about it because I have to learn that way and I have to think that way of if you're having to apologize for something, you shouldn't have done it. Yeah. And then I've really got to myself. It's funny is people tell me I give them such great advice and I have to sit back sometimes and go, I'm really talking to you. I'm really talking to me. Like I'm talking to this dummy right here out loud, Yeah.
Did you and your brother reconnect then?
Yeah. My brother and I were super tight. I mean, even when we got separated for a while, we always found a way to find each other.
But that's cool.
My brother is my hero.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my brother, if you ever see my brother's really scary looking, right? Really? Oh, dude, my neighbors call the cops. I'm like, there's some scary Mexican dude. I'm like, it's my brother. Like, yeah, like another Mexican dude. My brother's bald headed. He's only got one eyeball, and he's got a big old barbed wire fence type around his neck. He's tied it up, right? And it's just funny. I'm like, my brother has grandkids, he's an old man. Be scary about, but he's this happy dude, right? My brother, he's just such a happy dude, and never really gets angry. I've seen him get angry once, but I'll tell you, he never says the wrong thing. Wow. And when he wants to let you know he disagrees, you will know. It's not mean. Yeah. It's just a matter of fact, right? And so my brother's my hero. And I spend as much time with him as I can. He's successful in his own way, right? Yep. And we've been married now 20, 30 years. Got grandkids, so it's pretty funny.
What an incredible story, brother. I mean, I appreciate you, just opening up and being honest and vulnerable. I mean, I didn't expect this, but there's so much that people can take away from this, no matter. I remember when I was sitting in prison, I got a letter from a lady that I didn't know was a friend of my mother's. And I've told this before on a couple episodes, but, she said she couldn't imagine what I was going through. She wasn't going to pretend, but she said, if you'll just focus on, what you have to be grateful for each night, 3 things for that day. And just remember that someone always has it worse than you do. And, the story that you've told, there's people that have even worse than that, but that's pretty damn bad, And so whoever's listening, just understand that there's people out there that have a lot worse. And, Dan is an example, of the person that can accomplish so much, if you're willing to work hard and then, be willing to even face the music, the demons, whatever you want to call it. And what a beautiful ending, man. I mean,
And that's the thing I want people to leave them with is, people always ask me like, what's the secret? And what's the secret? What's the secret? And I know my secret. And my secret comes from, one, the understanding of how my brain works. And my brain has two facets, control and chaos.
yep. Gosh.
So with control is an illusion, but without an attempt to do it, it's chaos. Right. And so I start my day absolute. My day is absolute from the time my eyes open. Now, I'm not 𝐂𝐿𝐴. 𝐂𝐿𝐴's my friend. And I did platoon. When I wake up, I don't rush out of bed. I lay in bed. I listen to my music. Right. I go do my business. I read my paper. Right. I read as much paper as I can. Like, I don't watch the news ever.
Yep. Me neither.
Read different articles, usually the same article from 3 different places to see who's full of shit. Right.
Yep.
I go back to bed and I just hold my wife. She's still sleeping. All right. The cancer beat her up really bad. I just hold her and I make sure that I give at least as much time as I'm possible to give right there. I get up. There's days where I go work out. I feel a lot of motivation. There's days that I don't. I just go sit on my patio.
Yeah.
Sit on my patio, but it's all about quietness.
Yeah.
Then I iron my clothes. If I have, we used to run an office, so I had to iron my clothes every day. Iron my clothes, drive to work. When I drive to work, here's the key that I found works for me. I listen to country music and I set my odometer at the speed limit. I don't care what anybody else is doing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rush. I'm never rushing, because when I rush, chaos, anger. Somebody cuts me in off the traffic. Hey man, they must be in a rush.
That's cool. Yes.
Right. I get to work and I say the two most valuable things that keep me where I need to be. One, my problems are not their problems. I say it to myself twice.
That's great.
Next, make 7 people smile. And I say that because if I don't make people smile, I'm an asshole. And it's easy to be an asshole.
Yeah.
My work day, and when I come home, I sit in my driveway and I finish all my phone calls, all my emails. I do not bring it in. I do not bring my phone into my home.
Yeah.
As soon as I come home, there's a book that, Tommy Shea is a good friend of mine. He told me something that I said, I'm going to try this. And I'll end it with this. It's called 3 Simple Things.
Okay.
10 minutes for her, 10 minutes for me, 10 minutes intimacy. And what I found is that most people don't listen to each other. So in that 10 minutes that I come in, I ask my wife, I make it a point, ask her something you don't know. Anything random. What's your favorite bird? What's your favorite feather on? I don't give a shit what it is.
Yeah.
Because every day I walk in, she's like, how are your day? I'm like, you don't want to hear about my day. I want to know about your day.
That's
Tell me about your day. And I do this thing called front sight focus, which is obviously weapons training. I am absolute in that conversation.
Yeah.
I don't look at my phone. I don't have distractions. I'm in that conversation. I listen to her. As soon as I'm done, I tell her anything except how my day went. A thought that came on my brain, something I listened to, but I don't talk about work. And then 10 minutes intimacy. That's not sex.
Right.
Patio, sit in the patio, maybe just sit next to each other, just some form of touching, right? And, there's a lot of books about human touch, interpersonal relations, whatever. That has absolutely changed our marriage.
Wow.
It's changed it. We just have a different marriage now. Like, I am madly in love.
Yep.
I hate being away from her. And like I said, I've been a husband for 4 years. Been married for 23.
Yeah.
Been a husband for 4.
Wow.
And I know life. I know the infinite joke of life. I'm very realistic on the fact of how much time I have left.
Yeah.
If I go past 70, I'll be very happy. Very happy. But the realism is 70 is a number that I go, I want to make it to 70. The last 20 years have sucked. Next 20 are going to be my way.
Yeah.
Completely my way. And that's my focus. I'll keep it simple.
That's great. And I think it's so powerful that you said, 𝐂𝐿𝐴 does this. And there's so many people that think they have to find, that person that's the guru or whatever. And then no, you need to do your real authentic morning routine, whatever that is, So that's great. I appreciate it. And thanks so much, Dan. I mean, this has been a pleasure. And I just appreciate your time and know how busy you are, and want to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas, and hope to, be able to connect with you down the road a little bit. That'd be
anytime, man. Call me. Hey, you can call me. I like
Dude, I'd love to.
You can call me podcast. We can just call bullshit.
Hey, I love that, brother. Well, definitely will. So take care, and thanks again. Have a good one. Appreciate it.
Meet Backbone CRM, the most powerful platform to get 5-star customer reviews on autopilot. Not to mention, it's built on the powerful Google Cloud ecosystem for fast speeds. But wait, that's not all. You'll have SMS marketing with drip campaigns, reputation management, two-way text messaging just like a cell phone with pictures as well, a unified conversations inbox for email, SMS, social media integration like Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, Google My Business Chat, website chat widget, all in one single unified conversations inbox. Isn't that awesome? Backbone CRM is the all-in-one automation platform to get customer reviews on autopilot and communicate with your customers all in one unified inbox so you never miss a customer again. Built for small businesses just like yours. Backbone CRM. Automate your business.